each and every one of you for being here this evening. It's an important meeting in Tullahoma. In just a few prepared remarks, I'd like to read for you, sort of set the stage of why we're here, in case somebody doesn't know why we're here. So let me just go through that. So back on November the 9th, in our 2020 board meeting, the Board of Mayor and Alderman, we had a resolution that was put forward by Alderman Rupert Blackwell. It was for the approval of the proposed bylaws for the Community Council for Diversity and Inclusion. There was a proper motion and seconded. During the ensuing discussion, the issue of whether the council should be under the auspices of the city government or as an independent, standalone organization, perhaps a 501c3. A motion was subsequently made by Alderman Berry to postpone the resolution indefinitely, pending further study. That motion was seconded and was passed by a vote of 4-3. So in accordance with the motion to postpone pending further study, the following day I requested that the city administrator, Ms. Booth, put together a study committee to be formed to include Alderman Blackwell and Alderman Berry and be chaired by Mayor Pro Tem Blanks. I'm his best friend now, you can bet. Alderman Blackwell and Alderman Berry were asked to select 2 additional members each to form a committee of 7. The charge to this committee was to evaluate the merits of the Community Council for Diversity and Inclusion to be established as either an agency of the city or as an independent nonprofit organization, perhaps a 501c3. The committee was further asked to make a consolidated, unified report, single report, back to the mayor and alderman on that issue, and that issue alone. So this study group today will be studying that, as to whether it should be a 501c3 or an independent organization or an agency under the city government. That would be the only thing that's discussed today. A public meeting notice was posted in the Tullahoma News advertising the committee meeting on December 2nd, today, 4 o'clock. The comments were invited, which have been received, and also forwarded to the committee. So your comments that have been submitted have been forwarded. Members of the public, you were invited to attend today's meeting and be given 2 minutes per individual to make comments in person. The meeting notice also advised that the total time for comments may be limited. As you can see from the group we've got, we may need to limit that. So this will be at the discretion of the committee chair, Mayor Pro Tem Blanks. So I'll now turn the meeting over to Chairman Blanks.
Thank you, Mayor. I call this study committee for proposed community council for diversity and inclusion. Thank y'all for coming out tonight, this afternoon. Appreciate all the support that we have here. Before we get started, I'd like you to stand and I'll ask Reverend Marty Nutter to lead us in prayer before we get started.
This is your internet service at 10 meg speeds. This is internet service at Gigabit. No other local provider can match this level of speed. Call us today to get the world's fastest internet.
Never miss your favorite shows again. For an additional $12 a month, along with your digital television service, LightTube Cloud DVR lets you record up to 8 programs at the same time. Receive 500 gigabytes of cloud storage and whole home DVR. Call TUA Customer Service to add LightTube Cloud DVR to your digital television service today at 455-4515.
Hello? 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 Wanna dance?
Check out Stingray Music on TV. Now available, the new Stingray Music mobile app, free with your TV subscription. Stingray Music, all good vibes.
Does your family love to stream movies and use multiple Wi-Fi enabled devices? But are you finding out that your run-of-the-mill router simply can't keep up? Don't worry, LightTube has you covered with our internet router service for only $9.95 per month. Get back to what your family loves doing. Call us today at 455-4515 to learn more.
I'm just going to take a minute or two and go over the basics of the agenda. First, I want to introduce the members of this committee. Alderman Daniel Berry, Alderman Lisa Blackwell, colleague Mr. Chris, Ms. Susan Harris, Mr. Ben Seaborn, and Reverend Elmer Coker. All of you here are probably very familiar with these people. They're vital members of this community, as are y'all. Appreciate you coming. And myself, Jimmy White. I was the lucky one who said here. I'll have some discussion of ground rules. After we do that, we'll have a review of the mission and objectives of the proposed council. Then we'll have public comments. Since we have quite a few people here, like the mayor said before, try to allow for 30 minutes for that. 2 minutes a person, about 15 people can talk. I'm not going to really, be super tight on that. And, I'll have people raise their hands in a little bit. The people that want to speak, you can defer your time to somebody else to speak for you if you wish. Then we'll have a discussion of the benefits and consequences of the proposed council. One formed as a committee under the city of Tullahoma. That'll be amongst ourselves for 30 minutes, and then formed as a non-city independent entity for 30 minutes. And towards the end, we'll have a discussion as to the final recommendation from the study committee. Some ground rules that I'd like to discuss before we get started. We need to listen with an open mind. Try to let everybody here participate. Allow others to speak before speaking again. Try not to interrupt. Respectfully discuss the issues, not the person. I'm not looking for any personal attacks. If that happens, I'll cut you off. And commit to seeking a consensus or trying to see, others, walk in somebody else's shoes and see, you can get some consensus. So, without further ado, we'll get into part one of this. I have questions and answers from committee members regarding clarifications of any statements in the proposed bylaws. So, I open the floor. Anybody that wants to speak, Alderman Rice?
Yes, I feel like I'd like to give the purpose of the council, because some of these people were not in our city board meeting itself. So thank you, members of the committee, for taking the time out to be here today and to be here to help our community right now. I want to tell you about the overarching goals of the Community Council for Diversity and Inclusion and how they serve a purpose for our community. I want to tell you guys a bit about the backstory for everybody here to hear. This council is not a project that I've created by any means, but rather something that's been formed through significant input from our community. Significant. It started from conversations with community leaders, two of them are up here with me right now, who are cultural informants. Led to an announcement of an open meeting to discuss the creation of a diversity council, which had incredible attendance both online and in person during COVID, where all citizens could attend and vocalize any concerns or thoughts they had. From this meeting, conversations from their city board meetings, guidance through MTAS studies, through our city administration, attorneys, and leaders within our business community, and we spent 6 months working this to create a council with two main goals, and that's what I want to talk to you about. The first goal is to serve as a tool for our city government to be able to have outreach and engagement in our historically underrepresented communities in a transparent manner that would hold our city accountable to providing every citizen, everyone, with equitable access to services. That is it. The second overarching goal was to strive to create an opening and welcoming feel to our community for everyone, including those who don't always feel welcome. This part was something we heard especially from members of our community that had served on a previous diversity council that had served our community and is no longer in existence. It was a separate entity and not with the city. That council in itself had things like essay contests, a diversity camp, and it seemed very important to members of our city that that be included in the bylaws. Those bylaws speak to those two things. The goals stated above are created to ensure that all of our citizens are treated fairly, but also to ensure that we're creating a community where what I hear on the board every time we meet, our children will come back to live one day. I think that's what we all said we want to see. We talk about this often in board meetings, and by creating an appreciation of different cultures and for diverse thought, we'll be more likely to recruit in industries here who are looking to relocate to areas where they want to make sure that not only are the people who work there going to be served, their executives and their clients. They want to make sure that they will all feel welcome. Those industries will allow us to do exactly what we talk about, to create a pipeline to allow our kids to enter a workforce that's ready for them. And I want to remind each of you, as we go through this, throughout this entire process, this organization has always been set up for the intent to be a part of our city. On our June board meeting, I think I specifically said that the goal was for this to be a conduit between our city government and marginalized communities. This was also clearly communicated in the news, on LiveTube, and all these other things. But I just want to make this clear that what this is not to make anything harder for us as a city government. It's to make it easier. It's set to help us reach out to those and engage with all our citizens, because some are not able to actively reach out to us. Some are working multiple jobs and cannot get here to our board meetings. Some have autistic children at home who they cannot bring into these meetings and don't feel comfortable doing that. Some, unfortunately, don't trust the government because they think we've forgotten them. And there are some who are in wheelchairs who cannot even access our rooms. This will allow us to better serve our community and ensure everyone's treated fairly and equitably, because that's what we need to do. Because when one of us does better, I truly believe that we all do better. That's it.
This is your internet service at 10 meg speeds. This is internet service at Gigabit. No other local provider can match this level of speed. Call us today to get the world's fastest internet.
You wanna dance?
Check out Stingray Music on TV. Now available, the new Stingray Music mobile app, free with your TV subscription. Stingray Music, all good vibes.
Never miss your favorite shows again. For an additional $12 a month along with your digital television service, LightTube Cloud DVR lets you record up to 8 programs at the same time. Receive 500 gigabytes of cloud storage and whole home DVR. Call TUA Customer Service to add LightTube Cloud DVR to your digital television service today at 455-4515.
Anybody else on the board would like a chance to speak on the review of the mission and objectives of this proposed council? Alderman Berry.
We ask questions now about.
Well, I think that would probably be under the discussion of the benefit and the consequences of the first council. Once you can add anything to the review of the mission or the objectives of the first council.
But right now we're asking clarification about statements. Okay. So, apologize, I wasn't at the previous meeting, so I'm still coming up to speed. Reading through this in general, one of my concerns was just how general it was. And I just leave that as a general comment for now. Even in the purpose statement, I agree with probably 90% of the purpose statement. I have a concern without things being defined. I know these things are very difficult to define, clearly, to make sure it's fair. But for example, the statement here, respect by recognizing your beliefs. And that gives me some concern. The city, in my opinion, shouldn't be in the position of approving or disapproving of any particular belief. And so I think it would be good to define what you mean by recognizing beliefs, so that does not imply that the city's going to pick and choose to use it more favorably than others. I'm concerned about that. Same thing with 3.1.2, providing education that enhances cultural awareness. I'm all for that in many ways. But once again, if the city begins to pick viewpoints to promote that education over other viewpoints, I would have concerns about that. And I don't see anything in this bylaws that would guard against that. And then the final comment I'll have for now is over on 4.8.4, which lists the responsibility of council members, which I think are all pretty good. The last one gives me a little concern. I'm assuming council members are going to be appointed, if it does end up with the city, by board members, and they're going to pick a variety of people with different beliefs on that board. And 4.8.4 says positively promote the objectives of the council within the members' communities. And this, if you don't do that, if you don't positively promote the objectives of the council, then the council itself could remove a member. So I'm concerned if someone came on the board and had a different point of view, the council could just silence that point of view by removing that person from the board. I think you should reconsider that as a requirement that could be removed.
Can I ask a question for?
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
So my question is, my understanding is that these bylaws were a proposal, and that at some point we were going to go back and forth with them. I think the goal of us today is to discuss whether or not we want this to be with the city at all, period. But these are open at some point, but not today, I think, correct? We're not supposed to be discussing the actual bylaws, but whether or not we want to have it within the city.
That's correct. I think that's a subject. I think amending of the bylaws and that type of thing is either left to the committee that's been formed to develop the bylaws, or will come up for discussion when the full board meets. The purpose of this part is just to clarify before we move into the next part of the discussion, make sure that there's clarification, any questions, because you did have time to review the bylaws, but do you have any questions about what you read? So do you understand clearly the purpose and the intent before we talk about what structure should it be? We just wanted to make sure that everyone was on the same page in terms of understanding the purpose and intent.
I do have a question, just for clarification, and I will preface this by letting everyone know that I'm an accountant, bean counter, nitpicker, extraordinaire. So, but in there we talk about, there's the phrase historically underrepresented. So what time frame are we looking at for history, and how are we calculating the percentage based on underrepresentation? Is that based on elected officials? Is that based on people appointed to councils? How are we determining it? Because I do think, if you want to succeed, you need to know where the goalposts are. And if we want to say, well, we feel better now, or we think we've achieved something because our percentages are better, if that's the goal, and it seems to be the goal that this committee would. The objective is, evidently, there's some concern about underrepresentation, and I want to know how that's calculated. And I'm not familiar with the impact study, but I know what that means.
So I think that's a great question. And I think that's probably the question that Steve Worsham had when he asked us to define, put some sort of a definition behind that. Because originally, when we proposed these bylaws to give you guys some backstory, these did go through our attorney, our licensed attorney, because you do have to have a license to practice in the state of Tennessee. So we had our licensed attorney work with our licensed attorney here at the state, at our city, to come up with this exact thing. And one of the things he says, historically underrepresented isn't enough. Come back to me with these things. Give us a definition. And so I actually went to Stacey Lynch, who is the attorney who worked with us with the council. She cannot be here today, and apologies for that. She's absolutely not allowed to be here right now. But I want to make sure that I explain to you what she said to me. Here we go. She said, regarding the definition of historically underrepresented communities, she wanted to say that the original bylaws presented by the council and to Mr. Worsham later actually did not expand past historically underrepresented. When we sent these bylaws to our city attorney, he requested that we add in definition of some sorts. So Stacy went back and went through different federal and state civil rights laws and recorded court opinions interpreting the applications of those laws. And that's where she came up with this. She didn't want to exclude anybody because to me, I'm seeing people who I know are in part of these groups, the socioeconomically disadvantaged, that's hence why she put MD, et cetera. So in my mind, that's where she got that information from. But in terms of the timeline of what historically means, I mean, I think we could say since, I don't know. I mean, I don't know I can look into what that would mean exactly.
But is it the last 20 years? Are we saying in the last 10 years?
No.
Are we looking at current? Because,
not America.
to me, it would make a difference. And then going forward, you want to know where you started from. What was the basis that you were using to start from so that you know where you're going to end up if you've made improvements.
Exactly. I think a big part of these specifically had us collecting data.
To speak to that end, I believe there was great work and a lot of educational studies that went with this particular phrasing. And it started off in about 1998 to about 2002, where it was to galvanize humanity with regards to those historical groups that were not a part of what we would consider the privileged part of society. Privilege goes to those who are part of indigenous people who historically have always not had to fight legally. They had things afforded to them, and they were not held back because of sexual orientation, because of their skin color, because of their financial acumen or background, or anything like that that would hold them back. So that's where that term comes in. How far does it cover? We should actually look at the Civil Rights Act of 1968, I believe, and those that go back before that, because that's where we now start to see the galvanization of individuals coming together and looking beyond race, creed, color, religion, anything else that what they asked in the school group, like the Title IX, where they're saying, hey, you can't discriminate because a person comes from a different background. So that's where that comes from. That's what we're looking at. If I may interject.
I would just add, that was probably the precipice when there was action to those issues. I would say that the timeline goes back, when this country was formed and before. So, it's not something that you can really finitely put a time period. But the big push for civil rights, I think it was in 63, right after Kennedy was assassinated. Johnson had the acumen to get that through, but nonetheless, I think it was even before, as this country was formed, and from now, so I would look at it, there's no way to define an exact time. I know, I like exacts too, being a science background. Sometimes the exact is exact as we can get it, and it may not be, you can't get the subset down that far.
This is your internet service at 10 meg speeds. This is internet service at Gigabit. No other local provider can match this level of speed. Call us today to get the world's fastest internet.
Does your family love to stream movies and use multiple Wi-Fi enabled devices? But are you finding out that your run-of-the-mill router simply can't keep up? Don't worry, LightTube has you covered with our internet router service for only $9.95 per month. Get back to what your family loves doing. Call us today at 455-4515 to learn more.
You wanna dance?
Check out Stingray Music on TV. Now available, the new Stingray Music mobile app, free with your TV subscription. Stingray Music, all good vibes.
Daniel, you had another comment?
Yeah, just real quick, and I think just for clarification and to make sure everybody's on the same page, can we, how it's used in the bylaws and the intent of the council, define diversity, give a definition to diversity and a definition to inclusion? Reading through emails, conversations, everybody has a different definition. So as it pertains to what do we mean by diversity defined and inclusion defined?
I think when we get to the bylaw discussion, if we ever get to actually being able to create bylaws.
We will get to the discussion. We're coming up on 20 minutes for our part one review of mission objectives and proposed council. Does anybody else have anything before I move into the public comment from the citizen section? I don't want to hurry this along, but I don't want to drag it out either.
As long as we define that before we go into the other two discussions.
Right now is what?
No, I mean, we can move on to that, but before we get to the
I think-
part two, before we get into part two.
I think that is something that would need to be discussed with lawyers to make sure that they are done
Well, I mean,
properly. Diversity and inclusion is something that is across the board. There's a wealth of documents and research out there, but to say, hey, Rupa, come up with a specific definition right now?
I would think we should have had that before we presented I'll get to that.
Would it matter if it was, well, never mind.
What if we define it as like the Title IX? Let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's just go off of what has already been established. So if we go off of what was established with Title IX, let's say the diversity is regardless of race, creed, color, religion, sexual orientation, or any human, social
personality, skill set.
That's not in Title IX. So when we start dragging it out, when we start doing that, then we're reinventing the wheel. Personality is not. We're talking
That's
about.
fine. I just want to know how.
Yeah, we're talking about We're talking about people who have deficiencies socially or physiologically, historically. So
we have precedent. We have precedent.
And we also have guidance from MTS right here defining diversity. This is from a 2015 MTS study that said, and I quote, if I can find it, give me a second.
Jennifer, could you tell us what MTS is?
Sure. MTS is unique to the state of Tennessee, and it stands for Municipal Technical Advisory Services. Some of our state collected sales tax dollars go to pay for this entity that is under the University of Tennessee Institute for Public Service. And they provide education, resources, and consultants to all the municipalities in the state of Tennessee. They have experts in many fields in the service areas that cities provide, like fire service. They also have legal attorneys that work with us, and they have general management consultants. So I think they have a large database. We work with them in a lot of different ways, but that's what MTS is.
They prepared a study, and essentially one of the things that they recommended in 2015 to our city governments was to, within this constituent engagement, okay, I'm going to read 3 items from it. The goal was identify community demographics and ensure all staff is aware of the municipality's demographic snapshot. This is to work within the city administration itself. Constituent engagement, and this is exactly what I think this council does. This is what they recommend to the cities in 2015 to do. Locate community leaders who can communicate and provide consultation on diverse constituent needs, i.e. cultural informant, which is a new word I need to learn. Identify local cultural experts who may assist with culturally relevant programming and other initiatives. Recruit community members through various neighborhood associations or groups, representing various disadvantaged populations, segments to serve on a community advisory council or task force to advise on service delivery efforts within the municipality to ensure equitable delivery of services. That's what the goal of this council is. And in terms of diversity, we could go through this entire page and a half, but they have defined diversity for us. And if we want to, we can literally go to MTest for that definition.
In that same study, they defined the terms.
Yes, and we can
They
use
clarified.
Yes, and we can use those, I think.
Which is demographics of the population group differences.
Can you tell me what page you're on?
This is in the actual slideshow.
Oh, you're on the slideshow?
Yeah.
Ah.
So it's just as, for that particular study, they didn't use Title IX. They just took the community at large and said, here are the demographic differences, and it's the various groups within the community. They didn't use.
No, that is what,
Right here.
that is a summary. This is the full report. On page 17 of the full report, what is meant by the term diversity? How is this concept defined? Too many in this term conjures a focus on race and ethnicity, followed by sex and gender. It's this, but however, increasingly this term has taken on a broader and in the view of some more vague connotations. But what they go to here is, while the SHRM definition is more broad and inclusive of various categories, there are more specifically defined, here we go, the EEOC 2015 protected categories included race, color, national origin, age 40 or older, which I found terribly offensive, by the way, disability, genetic information, sex, pregnancy, and religion. And what they went on to define is to say that even though that's what the EEOC says, some of the things that they define as diversity, which include age, disability, economic income status, education level, language, national origin, race, religion, sex, gender, and sexual orientation, include all of those things within it.
Right, which is what I started to say earlier.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
Were those?
Is that what they put on that slide? I'm like, I'm missing that.
CTAS has a training video on it as well. And the only reason I ask is not to be nitpick, but as we go through, we say we want to form a council on diversity and inclusion. I think it's important to understand who we're talking about and what do we mean by inclusion and how we define equity. There's a difference between equality and there's a difference in equity and...
We're talking equity.
Yeah. Right, social equity, which they define as well. I just wanted to make sure that we were on the same page, because I think in presenting the bylaws, those are answers.
Right here.
We should have clearly defined.
We can, and these are things that can be added in. Like, again, when we're talking about these bylaws and implementing them and editing them, I agree, we could easily add this into there.
All right. Anything else? Now we're going to section 4, public comments. How I'd like to do this, I'd like to have a show of hands of who is for having a diversity thing that's part of the city. Raise your hand. Of those people that have raised their hands, who would like to speak to us to the body? So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. So I'll start with Ms. Laurel. You want to stand up in front of the podium or stand where you are?
I'll just stand where I'm at. You want me to do the podium?
This is your internet service at 10 meg speeds. This is internet service at Gigabit. No other local provider can match this level of speed. Call us today to get the world's fastest internet.
Never miss your favorite shows again. For an additional $12 a month along with your digital television service, Like to Cloud DVR lets you record up to 8 programs at the same time. Receive 500 gigabytes of cloud storage and whole home DVR. Call TUA Customer Service to add Light-Tube Cloud DVR to your digital television service today at 455-4515.
Tell your mama, tell your pa, tell your sister, tell your dog, alright? We gotta get it together, together. I'm crazy for you, I'm so crazy for you, alright? I'm crazy for you, I'm so crazy for you, alright? I'm sick of feeling blue, crazy for you, I'm so crazy for you, alright?
Pastor, you're like, we're present, we're doing it.
It's the
We're live.
professor and Pastor.
If you can state your name, please.
Laurel Stone. As they just covered, there are many aspects to diversity and inclusion. Tullahoma is a very diverse community with various needs and perspectives. A city should be responsible and accountable in the ways that they are supporting their constituents. Our government should be fair and representational of the needs of our community. All citizens need to be represented, have equal access, equal opportunities, and have their perspective and voices heard in our city. A council could aid for better understanding of the experiences of all citizens. The council can play a role of providing information and education. Information and education for these citizens. Diversity and Inclusion Council can bridge that gap between our diverse community and the government. A diversity council can advocate for all citizens. A diversity and inclusion council should be part of the city because we are all part of the city. It is the responsible thing to do. It is the right thing to do. It will enhance Tullahoma. We refer to Tullahoma as a rising star. So we need to prove that that's true. Community members want this. I want this. Our city does so well in so many areas. We can do better.
Thank you. Who had their hand up next over this way? Ashley, come this way.
Tell your mama, tell your pa, tell your sister, tell your dog, alright? We gotta get it together, together. I'm crazy for you, I'm so crazy for you, alright? I'm crazy for you, I'm so crazy for you, alright? I'm sick of feeling blue, crazy for you, I'm so crazy for you, alright?
Never miss your favorite shows again. For an additional $12 a month along with your digital television service, Light-Tube Cloud DVR lets you record up to 8 programs at the same time. Receive 500 gigabytes of cloud storage and whole home DVR. Call TUA Customer Service to add Light-Tube Cloud DVR to your digital television service today at 455-4515.
This is your internet service at 10 meg speeds. This is internet service at Gigabit. No other local provider can match this level of speed. Call us today to get the world's fastest internet.
I'm so sorry about my 2-year-old. My husband works very hard and long hours to make sure we live a good life. So, all right. The Diversity and Inclusion Council serves many groups of people, as we've heard and will continue to hear. One of those groups are veterans. An overwhelming amount of veterans today are living with PTSD, and I'm here on behalf of them. Say you're driving down your neighborhood, and every time you hit the same patch of potholes on your street, over and over again, you immediately become agitated and panicked because you are reminded of the dirt roads your convoy policed twice a day in Afghanistan. Or it's the weekend after 4th of July, and the neighbors are setting off fireworks, and you instantly start to figure out how to save yourself, and your family from enemy fire. You're driving down Jackson Street and you see a business not realizing, not by mistake, that they are accidentally disrespecting the flag. And you become unnerved because you think that they are the enemy in disguise. I personally do not know a veteran that would openly speak at a BOMA meeting about any of these issues. Appearing weak to others is oftentimes debilitating to veterans. So they and their families suffer in silence. Now, imagine if there was a council with a council member that was a veteran, someone who can empathize, relate, and create a safe place for this anonymous veteran to share his or her concerns. This council member would then be able to help create an action plan and work with the board. We all say we want to support the troops. Now is the time to actually prove through action that we support our troops by supporting our veterans and their families. As a veteran's wife, I ask you, will you please support our veterans by adding this council to our government? That's all.
Never miss your favorite shows again. For an additional $12 a month along with your digital television service, LikeTube Cloud DVR lets you record up to 8 programs at the same time. Receive 500 gigabytes of cloud storage and whole home DVR. Call TUA Customer Service to add LikeTube Cloud DVR to your digital television service today at 455-4515.
This is your internet service at 10 meg speeds. This is internet service at Gigabit. No other local provider can match this level of speed. Call us today to get the world's fastest internet.
You wanna dance?
Check out Stingray Music on TV. Now available, the new Stingray Music mobile app, free with your TV subscription. Stingray Music, all good vibes.
Thanks to the study committee for letting us speak to this. The proposed creation of the Community Council for Diversity and Inclusion for some reason seems to have caused somewhat of a stir in our local community. Like so many items that described as issues during these days of heated political discussion, it seems to have intensified due to impersonal social media reactions and, I think, baseless fears. I worry we've lost focus on what this proposed council is about. By diversity, we obviously think of demographic diversity. Our identities of origin, gender, race, sexual identities, we just discussed those. Our community is made up of these and has always been made up of every mix of these characteristics one can think of. There are obvious majorities and minorities, depending on how one chooses to look at our population. A diversity council would seek to give voice to all of these human beings who call our town home or who would seek to relocate here. There are a couple of other ways that I would suggest that we consider diversity as well. Experiential diversity, that's our life experiences that shape us. We come from all over the place to this place to live. Our affinities, our hobbies, and our abilities. Our cognitive diversity, how we approach problems and think about things. These are cultural assets that it brings to that our diverse community brings to this place. The ThinkTullahoma.com website lists aerospace, medical, retail, and technology to be target sectors for business development and recruitment. I checked my stocks today. Those that I hold in medical and technology sectors are doing very well. Every single successful company that I hold stock in has dealt with diversity directly, systemically, and as a part of their corporate culture. Every single one of them. They recognized years ago that their ability to draw new talent and to keep that talent depended on this intentional and proactive effort. It was merely a matter of being responsible and smart businesses. If we are serious about developing our target sectors as stated on ThinkTullahoma.com, then we must do likewise. Diverse cultural perspectives can inspire creativity and drive motivation. Cultural sensitivity and insight, local knowledge means higher quality, targeted marketing. Number 3, drawing from culturally diverse talent pool allows a community to attract and retain the best talent. A diverse skills base allows a community to offer a broader and more adaptable range of products and services. Diverse communities are more productive and they perform better, and diverse communities provide greater opportunity for personal and professional growth. The issue, it seems to be framed as should this be a nonprofit or part of our government. To me, it is a no-brainer. Why would we want to separate these initiatives from our government, from our town? It's been successful for all of these big businesses that I am making money off of. Why wouldn't it be successful in our community, and why wouldn't we want it to be a part of our government?
Who's next? Over here. Sir?
This is your internet service at 10 meg speeds. This is internet service at Gigabit. No other local provider can match this level of speed. Call us today to get the world's fastest internet.
Does your family love to stream movies and use multiple Wi-Fi enabled devices? But are you finding out that your run-of-the-mill router simply can't keep up? Don't worry, LightTube has you covered with our internet router service for only $9.95 per month. Get back to what your family loves doing. Call us today at 455-4515 to learn more.
Never miss your favorite shows again. For an additional $12 a month along with your digital television service, LightTube Cloud DVR lets you record up to 8 programs at the same time. Receive 500 gigabytes of cloud storage and whole home DVR. Call TUA Customer Service to add LightTube Cloud DVR to your digital television service today at 455-4515.
Hello.
If you could state your name, I appreciate it.
My name is Royce Massengill from Tullahoma, Tennessee. This should be about like a minute and 50 seconds. All right. Having a diversity council would be one of the best things that Tullahoma has curated in a long time. It will bring awareness from the unheard to the ones who have a bigger spotlight than most. It would encourage an outreach to those who felt their voice didn't matter, so they didn't vote. However, government involvement doesn't sit well with me or any of the citizens that I know due to the fact that they have been ignored for many years in this very community by this very government. Simply put, some of us just don't trust our government. So why would we trust them to uphold the bylaws of the Diversity Council? To the council I say, if you haven't, go through all of your options. Is this the only one? Would you want the freedom to move as you please or be at the mercy of bureaucracy? There was a statement said that they do not want to put in the work for a nonprofit organization, which only tells me that it's not worth fighting for. To the city government, if you choose to accept the council to the board, our only wish is that you understand the need for such a council and the proper support that it would take to continue to diversify in the future. We the people, that includes everyone, no matter the race, no matter the culture, no matter the handicap, no matter the gender, treat us all the same. To the naysayers of Tullahoma, we are not asking for special treatment, but only a fair chance to expand our knowledge of each other's cultures, folklore, morals, and most importantly, our history. Thank you.
More hands?
You wanna dance?
Check out Stingray Music on TV. Now available, the new Stingray Music mobile app, free with your TV subscription. Stingray Music, all good vibes.
This is your internet service at 10 meg speeds. This is internet service at Gigabit. No other local provider can match this level of speed. Call us today to get the world's fastest internet.
Give us your name, please, ma'am.
My name is Susan Carr, and I'm here on behalf of individuals with disabilities. I'm not nearly the wordsmith some of these guys have been, so I'm just going to be to the point. As individuals with disabilities, we have been underrepresented forever. There's a 75% unemployment rate. They are allowed to be paid sub-minimum wage as of now, and don't have a good hand in what governs their well-being. So I think that the role of this committee would allow the council feedback from those underrepresented communities that would help move some of that forward. An example of, and let me just back up and say, I love Tullahoma. I've taught at Tullahoma City Schools. I love Tullahoma. There's a great outlook of inclusion coming out of the school, and employment, and community employers are working with the schools, and it's a great thing. It's a wonderful thing. And the outcome of that is that these individuals who maybe wouldn't have been shopping in your stores, in your grocery stores, and buying in your restaurants are able to do that. We want to help. We don't want to be a group of people we want to help the city. We want to help with things like transportation because we have ideas and we think that they would work. We want to help with things like employment, and we think that those plans could work and it would benefit everybody. So I'm also the president of a local nonprofit called the ARC of Coffee and Moore counties. And everyone here knows that it takes a lot of work to run a nonprofit. I mean, it takes accountants and members and time and money, and it's a lot. And if we could do this through the city and just be an avenue for feedback of how to improve some things, it wouldn't cost money. People would be able to participate. And one of the things I would like to mention, and not hear the buzzer, is for instance, there was an accessibility meeting a few months ago, 6 months ago, in an inaccessible room here in Tullahoma. I don't think it was intentional, but I just don't think that it was something that we thought about. And we would like to be a voice to have those sorts of things thought about. And that's all. Thank you.
Tell your mama, tell your pa, tell your sister, tell your dog, alright? We gotta get it together, together. I'm crazy for you, I'm so crazy for you, alright? I'm crazy for you.
This is your internet service at 10 meg speeds. This is internet service at Gigabit. No other local provider can match this level of speed. Call us today to get the world's fastest internet.
State your name, please, sir.
Robin Judici,
Spell the last name.
G-U-I-D-I-C-Y. In Italian, it's Giudici. You have to say it that way. I'm a new broom here in Tullahoma. I've been here a year and a half, and love the town. Great place to live. Came here from Miami, Florida, where I was a minority, believe it or not. And what I've decided as I've gotten older is it's easy to be against anything. It's much more difficult to figure out how to make something work. And when you look at it in total, the differences that we all have are probably less than 5%. But that's the reason we have a Baptist church on every corner, and a Church of Christ on every corner, and a Methodist church on every corner. And that's the reason that somebody lives next door to me, and they're not my neighbor, they're just the guy that lives next door. We're more divided than we've ever been. And why is that? That's because we don't have any qualms about getting on social media and blowing somebody up. We don't know them. We don't have a conversation with them. But we'll talk about it. We'll say that Rupa Blackwell needs to go back to California because she has a 310 area code. Well, I need to go back to Miami because mine's 786. But I grew up, I was born in Arkansas. I was raised in St. Louis. I lived 20 years in Nashville, 15 in Miami, and came back here. What you don't know is I'm a Republican conservative. What you also don't know is my great-grandfather's grandfather owned slaves. My family plot in the state of Arkansas, where my mother and father are slaves. Your descendants are buried in that same place. And what I've learned as I've gotten older is there's got to be room for everybody under the tent. There's got to be room for everybody at the table. Whether they know what I know, whether they have the same life experience that I have, whether they do or do not, I've got to make room for them at the table. A police officer will tell you the best way to police a community, my brother is a lifetime cop, is to create a relationship with that community. There is no greater way to create a relationship with a community than to be able to say, you know what, the 14 to 16% of the people in Tullahoma that haven't been represented are now. We have an opportunity here, folks, to be something nobody else is. It's easy to be a rock in the middle of the stream and make all the water go around. But it's something completely different to be a smooth pebble and make the water move faster and help everybody get to shore and make everybody successful. Because the elephant in the room at the end of the day is me. I want my way. I want what I want. I want things as long as it benefits me. I want small government, but boy, I sure did run out and cash that $1,200 check. I want small government, but boy, I sure did take that business loan whenever it came from the federal government. I want what's best for me. Well, I'm telling you, a rewarding life, a rewarding city, a place that people want to live is about giving back. It's about making the place where everybody wants to be, where everybody wants to live, where people want to come, where people want to retire, where I want to raise my kids. I'm going to tell you, my children look at race completely different than my generation does. You know why? Because they had to figure out how to get along. They had to figure out how to get along. And that's what we've got to do as adults. We've got to figure out how to get along again. We've got to stop talking at and start talking to one another. Start talking with one another. Get off the internet. Turn off Fox and CNN and MSNBC and sit down with the mayor. Sit down with your council people. Daniel Berry and I don't see eye to eye on a lot of things. He called me. I respect that. We talked. I respect that. We may never see eye to eye on everything, that's okay. But you know what? He's a conservative and so am I. But I'm socially I'm not conservative. I'm passionate. I don't care who you sleep with. I don't care how you identify. I'm called to love you. It's not easy to do, because we've all got welts, right? All right, that's all I got.
All right, I want those who are in the against to raise their hand. All right. Holly Sandlin, come to the front floor, come together.
This is your internet service at 10 meg speeds. This is internet service at Gigabit. No other local provider can match this level of speed. Call us today to get the world's fastest internet.
You wanna dance?
Check out Stingray Music on TV. Now available, the new Stingray Music mobile app, free with your TV subscription. Stingray Music, all good vibes.
Greg Sandlin, 106 Albemarle Drive. We live in a great country and a wonderful community. We are free to associate with whomever we choose. We're free to start organizations, churches, businesses. Whatever we're passionate about, we're free to engage in. If Alderman Blackwell, Dunn, and McGee want to have a diversity-centered group, advocacy group, they are certainly free to do so. You go for it. But, however, this group should not be a sanctioned council under the umbrella of city government. This would be a perverse application of local government's role in our community. Such a committee would give the new group an inappropriate perception of authenticity. Such a committee would create division and disunity in our community, in my opinion. Our Board of Mayor and Aldermen has a fairly boring role. I know, I did it for 3 years. We want, they need to provide good services at the best price for our taxpayers. Police, fire, public works, roads, potholes, zoning, parks and recs. That's the business of city government. It's not the role of local government or some sanctioned council to provide special services based on skin color, sex, intelligence, sexual preference, or whatever criteria might be popular with political correctness. The phenomenal Reverend Martin Luther King, he dreamed of a society where we were to be judged by the content of our character, by our merit, and not by the color of our skin. He advocated for a colorblind society where character and merit were criteria for serious consideration. This is true equity. This is true fairness, and we should be aspiring to that. Efforts such as this diversity council would drive us to not look at character and accomplishment, but to focus on a litany of physical traits or moral choices. Such efforts are destructive to unity and divide us along these changing physical attributes and moral choices. I believe any effort to form a board-sponsored diversity council is an abuse of the alderman's role for our city, and would divide us by tribe rather than unify us as citizens of an inherently diverse community. And certainly, no tax dollars should go to support this type of thing. I have some hard copies in my.
You wanna dance?
Check out Stingray Music on TV. Now available, the new Stingray Music mobile app, free with your TV subscription. Stingray Music, all good vibes.
Does your family love to stream movies and use multiple Wi-Fi enabled devices? But are you finding out that your run-of-the-mill router simply can't keep up? Don't worry, LightTube has you covered with our internet router service for only $9.95 per month. Get back to what your family loves doing. Call us today at 455-4515 to learn more.
Hi, Chris Connor, Tullahoma. I agree with many of the speakers thus far, all of whom have had very good points. My fear, as with those who have spoken before me, is trusting the government to do the right thing in the long haul. As has been said up here already, there was a conversation about the underrepresented and how that was specifically supposed to mean in this language. This conversation is about Tullahoma. It's not about LA or Oklahoma City or Orlando. It's about Tullahoma. The preconceived bylaws of the Community Council for Diversity provided to the public state that the council's objectives include coordinate programs that advocate for the percentage of the city of Tullahoma's population which are historically underrepresented in our community. My question is, what does percentage of the population which are historically underrepresented mean to the board? Who determined who was underrepresented, and to what capacity are they underrepresented? Where is the data relating this relative to Tullahoma? The bylaws seem to have already drawn conclusions about who the council believes is underrepresented. This is evident by the bylaws declaration that gender, ethnicity, mental physical ability, LGBTQ status are underrepresented. Who made this determination for Tullahoma? By determining these groups are underrepresented, the bylaws have already preconceived the results of the study as though the council has a different agenda in mind. This is troublesome. My concern is that our elected officials have conceived of a solution that they are fond of, and now they only need a problem to which to apply their solution. As an example, if the public were told that specific people groups had been calling the mayor for months that they were not able to get work or are being denied services, I'd say we have a problem, and having our elected representatives study this problem would be wise. But to suppose there exists some inherent problem in Tullahoma based on phrases such as underrepresented portions of the community seem to be supposing too much. What is the evidentiary material that substantiates this presupposition? Again, it appears that we have a desired solution, and now we must hunt for a problem to solve. And when one desires a preconceived outcome, one can find all sorts of data to support their desire, while summarily ignoring data to the contrary. This is a very slippery slope. Finally, I would ask, when we talk about expending resources on educational material, which were part of the bylaws, who determines what that educational material is? Why would we expend our resources on developing educational materials that divide our people or separate them into groups or tribes or camps? Why would we not have material that teach our people to love their neighbor as themselves? Or to not judge others by what they look like, but rather assess individuals on the content of their character? In closing, the formation of this council to study diversity seems like a preconceived desire to pit various identity groups against one another. I know that is not the stated intention of forming the group, but I fear it would be the inevitable outcome. My belief is that our elected officials should be representing us as our council, not an unelected body of bureaucrats. My vote is that the council should not be an entity within our city government. Thank you for the time and your consideration. I am grateful that we live in a free country. We possess the liberty to assemble and talk on these issues.
Tell your mama, tell your pa, tell your sister, tell your dog, alright? We gotta get it together, together. I'm crazy for you, I'm so crazy for you, alright? I'm crazy for you, I'm so crazy for you, alright? I'm sick of feeling blue, I'm crazy for you, I'm so crazy for you, alright?
This is your internet service at 10 meg speeds. This is internet service at Gigabit. No other local provider can match this level of speed. Call us today to get the world's fastest internet.
That's a tough act to follow. Thank you. My name is Richard Brooks. I'm the owner of Templar Shooting Sports at 1101 South Jackson Street, Tullahoma. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to address the committee and ladies and gentlemen of our community. According to the proposed bylaws of the council under the objectives, it is in and of itself divisive in the capacity of a government entity. Specifically, again, coordinate programs and activities that advocate for the percentage of the city of Tullahoma's population which are historically underrepresented in our community. Again, the speaker before me addressed that fully. What the bylaws tell our community that admittedly the Board of Mayor and Aldermen have not been doing their job in the first place if we need a council to represent a remaining fraction of the community that is historically underrepresented. Was the board not elected to do that? Represent all persons in Tullahoma? Is that not why city elections are nonpartisan? Is that not why we as voters research to find out who would best represent our beliefs and goals as a community? Simply to form another useless tax dollar wasting government entity is not the answer. Regardless of where the money to support this council comes from, either local tax dollars or federal grants, it is still tax dollars that would be better suited to serve the community as a whole, not a selected group. A proposed and appropriate solution for those passionate about the issues of diversity could be forming a nonprofit or other sort of group association for this specific cause. Until then, it's the opinion of many of us that it is not a wise use of community resources. The opposition to the formation of such a council is not the nature or intent of the council. It is simply not the government's job to continuously create councils, boards, and committees in an attempt to fix problems that were created by the government itself. In other words, if the board simply does its job as elected by the people of our amazing city, this would not be an issue in the first place. Every single resident and member of the community in Tullahoma would therefore be equally represented. In short, we should expect those elected to do their jobs, not hand off that responsibility to an unelected official. Thank you.
Are there against any that wants to speak?
I was wanting to speak about the pro, but I never got a chance.
Janice Bowling.
This is your internet service at 10 meg speeds. This is internet service at Gigabit. No other local provider can match this level of speed. Call us today to get the world's fastest internet.
Never miss your favorite shows again. For an additional $12 a month along with your digital television service, Like to Cloud DVR lets you record up to 8 programs at the same time. Receive 500 gigabytes of cloud storage and whole home DVR. Call TUA Customer Service to add LightTube Cloud DVR to your digital television service today at 455-4515.
Good evening. It is a pleasure to be here because Tullahoma is our chosen hometown. How many of you chose to live in Tullahoma? And be careful, those that were from here from the beginning, they're all kin to each other. So, but I want to say that in Tullahoma, we have lived here, we chose to live here, we chose to raise our children here. And I'm here not as the Deputy Speaker of the Tennessee State Senate, which some might consider because of my white privilege, which is kind of humorous since I was raised on the wrong side of the tracks, not in Tullahoma, in another town. Wrong side of the tracks in a 3-bedroom house with 4 generations and 1 bathroom. Do math. So the only privilege I got was to make sure I got to go to the bathroom at least once a day. But in all seriousness, as we look here in Tullahoma, when I heard that there was being considered a diversity council, I laughed. I said, if this is a joke, right, what's the punchline? Because in Tullahoma right now, 7 aldermen, 4 are women, 2 are women of color. When I read the newspaper, Rupa, that Tullahoma had elected its first woman of color, I said, who was it? I had voted, and I didn't consider Rupa a woman of color. I considered her Rupa. J.T. Northcutt was when I was an alderman for 15 years, sat beside me. He's my dear friend to this day. And we agreed on more than we disagreed on. But when I think about Tullahoma too, I go back 40-something years when my mother, a different generation, came to spend the week with us when our youngest child was born. She went to Bel Air Elementary School that evening with my husband and our children for the PE program. When we got back home, when they got back home, I was home with a newborn baby. She was talking to my son. She said, Temple, that was really a nice PE program. That was just a really nice school. And your PE teacher is black. She was being gracious in her comment to that. And my son's remark was, he looked at her and he said, well, actually, he's light brown. He had no idea what she was talking about. He was a dear friend, is still a friend. And so in Tullahoma, 30 years ago, how many of you lived here 30 years ago, thereabouts? When and I'll cry to this day, when I think of Mrs. London, who was getting out of her car and she had the flu. She jumped out to keep from messing up her car. She'd been shopping for her family at Christmas time. She didn't put the car in neutral. She put it in reverse. She ran behind to get sick, and the car ran over her and killed her. When we were at their home taking food to Antonio and Eugene's mother in honor of her and the family, it broke our hearts. I've been to as many funerals of people of color in Tullahoma as I've had. I was honored to speak at Eugene London's funeral just a few weeks ago. His family asked me to speak. My point in all this is something that I said at that funeral. Eugene, and if you say his name right now, you're going to have a smile on your face because everybody loved Eugene and he loved everybody. He was a part of our county and mayor of Manchester. But he knew the Old Testament where God divided us, where God sent us at the Tower of Babel because of pride, because of separation, because of arrogance. We were divided into sets and subsets by ourselves. But God did that because of our arrogance, and he had to divide us up. In the New Testament, on the day of Pentecost, he brought us back together again through the blood of Jesus. So my DNA and your DNA and your DNA, we have the same DNA as believers. There's one race, it's the human race. And if we continue to want to look superficially at people, and I've had a lesbian that came into my office, and she was adamant that I should accept her lesbianism. I said, listen, I didn't walk into a room and say, hello, I'm Janice Bowling, and I'm heterosexual, and you gotta like it or like it. I don't identify myself just by what color, what gender, how I'm married, because I believe in a certain way, and that is my choice. But to come here tonight and even discuss making a council based on setting and subsetting and dividing and looking at the superficial. In the city of Tullahoma, as they say down home, you're a day late and a dollar short, because Tullahoma has dealt with whatever diversity there might have been years ago. And I appreciate the opportunity to share with you.
Any other opposition?
We talk about opposition right now.
Never miss your favorite shows again. For an additional $12 a month along with your digital television service, LikeTube Cloud DVR lets you record up to 8 programs at the same time. Receive 500 gigabytes of cloud storage and whole home DVR. Call TUA Customer Service to add LikeTube Cloud DVR to your digital television service today at 455-4515.
Afternoon, I guess it's still afternoon and not evening, I almost said evening. But I came here today thinking I would be speaking to people who actually vote on this, like the Board of Aldermen. That's a disappointment. Because I was used to the open meetings they were having on Monday nights when the public could come and have something to say. I don't know if they still do that or not, because if they do, I might want to come Monday. But I just couldn't believe that all the things I wrote, 2 or 3 things, and all my questions couldn't even apply here. I attended the July 7th meeting, which was very, very different from this as to the impression of what in the world was going to be done. I got a lot of input there about changing behavior, or these problems would change behaviors. That's the way it was directed. And there was a whiteboard that was totally filled with problems and solutions. I wonder if the board members have a copy of that. You do? And I think the public should have a copy of it too. We actually have notes that were taken from there. But this is just totally different. I can't imagine, we couldn't even imagine that night, that it was all laid out before us. We had no way to even express a view, let alone get anything done with it. So I really believe that this country was founded on a vision of limit to government. That's what's made it great. And this is no limit. I felt my free speech taken away. And this is not public input. Let me tell you. This was completely misrepresented, I think. And I don't know where my representatives are on this board.
One more.
This is your internet service at 10 meg speeds. This is internet service at Gigabit. No other local provider can match this level of speed. Call us today to get the world's fastest internet.
My name is Amy Johnson. I live at 1302 Fawn Street. I really want to address this to the study group and to the board. It's I mean, the fact that the public is here, they're listening, but it's really to you guys that make the vote. While I did not attend the inaugural meeting at Mount Zion Baptist Church, I did view the video of the meeting on Facebook. Despite microphone issues that made the comments from the 17 speakers almost inaudible, Reverend Torbert did a great job of reiterating everybody's concern and restating their suggested solutions. Thank you so much. You've done good. And my takeaway from that was that there's merit in establishing a council if people want to establish a council to address citizen concerns. I see no problem with that. I don't disagree with it. The proposed council is an advocacy group. An advocacy group uses various means to educate and influence public opinion and ultimately policy. It can be good, it can be bad, depending on the group. The United States and the world are full of advocacy groups from everything imaginable, including the California Coalition Against Sexual Assault, Reading is Fundamental, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, Disabled American Vets, the Lupus Foundation, the Fraternal Order of Police, and some funny ones. Maybe they're not funny to the members, but to me it was the National Hot Dog and Sausage Council and the American Mustache Institute. Each one of these is a special interest group as well as an independent organization. I could not imagine if all 8 of the groups I mentioned, plus this council, would want to come to the city and say, we want to be an arm of the government. I cannot imagine the chaos. Involving only one individual group as an arm of BOMA sets a scary precedent. Because if you're going to accept one, all the others are going to come. And they're going to say, we want it too. So I don't see it as going down a good road. And I'm not saying that there shouldn't be a council. It's just, it should be a standalone. Thank you.
All right, we've gone over about 10 minutes. We allowed 8 people on each side to speak. Now we're going to push on to the discussion up here between us. Discussion of the benefits and consequences of the proposed council. Those of you that didn't get to speak tonight, a lot of y'all that spoke had already sent us emails. Those of you that did not get to speak, if you could drop us an email to the mayor and board of aldermen, we'll take that into consideration. So we're ready for part 5, which is discussion of the benefits and consequences of the proposed council.
Never miss your favorite shows again. For an additional $12 a month, along with your digital television service, LightTube Cloud DVR lets you record up to 8 programs at the same time. Receive 500 gigabytes of cloud storage and whole home DVR. Call TUA Customer Service to add LightTube Cloud DVR to your digital television service today at 455-4515.
You wanna dance?
Check out Stingray Music on TV. Now available, the new Stingray Music mobile app, free with your TV subscription. Stingray Music, all good vibes.
Does your family love to stream movies and use multiple Wi-Fi enabled devices? But are you finding out that your run-of-the-mill router simply can't keep up? Don't worry, LightTube has you covered with our internet router service for only $9.95 per month. Get back to what your family loves doing. Call us today at 455-4515 to learn more.